I am from a Dutch background. I remember when my mom would go back and spend some time in Holland, and she would come back and she'd be just so bold and so blunt and so in your face. And it would take me a bit to get used to that, mostly because I was really used to this culture.
So I was talking to somebody who doesn't have kids, and when you're talking about the next generation and kind of passing these teachings along, how would you address that? Somebody who maybe doesn't have their own kids and doesn't think that there's going to be this long-term impact of their own life change because they're not actually passing it on to their own kids.
Right. And even when I talk about next generation, I just see kind of this hope for the world that might feel kind of big, but I know there's a real disillusionment with the world. Like, where is the world going? All this tech, all this AI, people aren't relating face to face, that there's such a disconnect. Young people are depressed. What's this world coming to? That kind of universal cry, that's more what I'm talking about with next generation. Sometimes we don't see the impact that we have. We might hear about it later on. You might find out 20 years down the road, oh, you did that kind thing. Most times we don't see the impact we have, both negative and positive. We just don't hear that, especially in our society. We're really, really polite. And so even if it's a really negative impact, we may not hear about it. Some societies are a lot more bold. I am from a Dutch background. I remember when my mom would go back and spend some time in Holland, and she would come back and she'd be just so bold and so blunt and so in your face. And it would take me a bit to get used to that, mostly because I was really used to this culture and not used to that anymore. And she would have to adjust. And she would interact with people and wouldn't mean anything by her abrupt nature in that moment. And she would have to kind of soften it and connect in with kind of the tone of the culture she would come back to. And it took her a bit, because if she was in Holland and said that big blunt thing, nobody'd be offended by that. And here she would come and she would just blurt out something and somebody'd be really upset, and it would kind of take her back. So that kind of impact that we have in the world, organizations and government, top leadership in businesses, we have a real heart to have an impact there as well. We've put together some programs around that, because this it just feels like this can't keep going the way it is, the way it does. And there isn't this sense of care that we feel from leaders in our world today. It just feels so, out for themselves kind of thinking. And it's kind of what everyone aspires to. On my social media, because I look at a lot of business stuff and approaches with marketing and those kinds of things. And there's such a push to, hey, you can get yours. And yet in the meantime, we've lost connection, and that's showing up because people are very disillusioned. And that sense of disillusionment seems to be impacting people at a younger and younger and younger and younger age. So if you have that sense as well, and if you don't have any kids, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not me with my kids and they will pass it on to their kids. There is some of that for sure in the genetics. But overall, as we shift our inner state, as we've talked about, a key piece with that is when we come out of self-protection. I was very, very deliberate with that terminology. I chose that. It felt like being in survival was something that happened to us. We're in a situation, I react, I respond, I'm in this survival response. Well, of course I am, because that guy was a jerk and blah, 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 blah. We're in survival. And it almost sounds like poor me, I'm a victim to this survival response. So when I really considered that wording, I chose self-protection because it indicated that we made a choice. Like, I am now in self-protection. Okay, I can see that. I can shift that. I have chosen that. I can choose my inner state, which is what we talk about with sovereign agency. Coming to this new paradigm of understanding how we function. These are the two key pieces. There are two states of being. We're aligned or misaligned, and we have sovereign agency to choose. So choosing alignment means we shift out of self-protection. We can't be in both. If you have anxiety, you are not in an aligned state. And in that self-protection mechanism, you can't hold a lot of compassion. You can't hold those big other focused perspectives because that it doesn't exist in that program. It doesn't exist in that mechanism. It's designed a certain way. It does its job really, really well. But this is the point where we can choose, we can see what's happening, and we can choose and we can shift. And over time, that will start to change our behavior. It will start to change our automatic responses because that will become more normal. Pausing, shifting, making a new choice. That will become our new normal. And then as we bring that into the world, because that when we're not in self-protection, we're in that open state. We're in that state where we can access unity consciousness. We can access that through our intuitive mind, directed by our intuitive mind. We feel lined up with ourselves. We feel like we've connected again with ourselves and with all that is. So if we're in unity consciousness, we're not busy being greedy and trying to take from our neighbor or from our brother or from anyone, because that doesn't exist there. So we've really shifted. Our state of alignment really determines our perspectives and our actions and our beliefs and our approach to the world and to others and to the next generation